Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Today is the 12th of September 2024. It's 4:30 in the afternoon, and it's my pleasure to introduce Clara Saillant to you. Clara is a research associate at the Department of Innovation and Digitalization of Law in Vienna. I have the privilege now for several years already to work and to collaborate with her. She's engaged in several of the strategically important projects of the department. If you are interested in some of her details, I may direct you to the website of the department, where you will find, inter alia, her full curriculum vitae and also her publications and all the other things that academics like her are doing. The main reason why she is invited today is, however, not so much that she is a brilliant academic, but the reason is that she is a brilliant academic with French roots, and I took the liberty and the privilege to have a French lawyer in the team in order to interview her on one of the most recent and most interesting cases we have at the moment when it comes to internet regulation and platform regulation. That's a case that is in connection with Telegram and the founder and the founder of Telegram, Pavel Durov, who, as you might have heard, was arrested in France a few days ago, and the Tribunal Judiciaire de Paris issued a press release. For that reason, you will find the link on this press release in the show notes of this edition. It's in French and it's also in English, and I will now, as I said, profit, and together with you, hopefully profit from Clara's expertise on what's really happening here, because my impression so far from many of the things I've been reading on the internet on this issue is that that it does have something to do with French laws, of course, and French specificities, and non-French experts don't necessarily understand all the details. Clara, thank you so much for being here. I hope that I didn't miss anything or misinterpret anything important yet. My first question would be, what really happened there in Paris at the end of August?
Thank you, Nicolas. I'm really happy to be here in this episode of Ask Boni, in my quality of having a French background. So last August, it was really groundbreaking and worldwide shocking news that Pavel Durov was arrested in Paris, just out of his plane. And considering the press release from the Tribunal Judiciaire de Paris, who is the first, which is the first instance as a judicial court, we don't really know what's going on. The accusations that are that he's under investigation for are mainly for complicity, but there is no material facts that have been provided. So it's very blurry. And from what I've read as well, and what I heard from also criminal lawyers back in France, is that they actually have no idea of what's in the file, and there is an investigation. Also, it is to be noted that Pavel Durov was in custody for 96 hours, which is the maximum length someone can be held in custody as well. And that means also that a judge has been also called to investigate on this. And the arrest is based on the state actually pressing charges by the procureur, the general attorney, and not based on someone's complaint. Mm-hmm. So that's also fairly interesting. So it's very vague. There is a lot of blurry understanding from everyone involved on what is going to happen. However, we know that a trial will happen, and at the moment there is an investigation, and he's under what we call judicial control, which means that I think it's twice a week he needs to go to a police station to show that he's still there and that he's showing up and signing that he's not left the country and that he's still at the disposal of the investigating team.
Mm-hmm. Clara, may I ask first, is this standard procedure? So is it normal that someone is simply arrested because of allegations of whatever crime that might be? or are there specific conditions that need to be met in order to make this legal? So, for example, under the Austrian legal system, you can't simply arrest someone. You need to have a specific reason for this. One of them is that you are afraid that the offender might disappear. Another reason might be that you are afraid that they might cover some of the proof that is still out there. And there's a third reason, which is you are afraid that the person might commit new crimes or other crimes. And you may only arrest someone if one of those requirements are met. Otherwise, you may, of course, start a litigation, and you might but do whatever you want as a state prosecutor, but not asking for arrest. Is this similar and identical, or even identical in France? So what do we need some kind of additional reasoning behind just Durov might have offended the law?
No, actually, that suffices. I hope if there are criminal lawyers, French criminal lawyers, that they can add. However, I think the reasons that you mentioned that apply to Austrian law also apply to French law, but mainly for the length of the custody. However, because they have like sufficient allegations, they can like put him into custody. And then he's presented to a judge. We call it juge de l'instruction. That is the judge that is in charge of investigating, and then who can decide whether this person is under judicial control, as we have seen, or should be actually put in detention, like temporary under temporary arrest while awaiting trial. And in the case of Pavel Durov, I guess they haven't deemed this unnecessary in his case, and they trust that he will not leave the country. So, which means that the arrest led to the custody, but at this stage, that is pretty much it. And they're just afraid that he might actually fly out somewhere, hence the judicial control and the bails that they had put on it, because he also holds citizenship with the Emirates, and I think another country. I can't remember exactly, but he also holds French citizenship. But yeah, no, I think the arrest is fairly standard, and from what I've seen, there was not major procedural issue that have been raised. More, yes, interrogations on the allegations and the facts and where this is going, and also the fear that it might take a precedence, and everybody's fairly very cautious with what is happening here.
Okay, so what we have to expect now is that there will be further interviews, and there will be further investigations, and finally there will be a court opening an official procedure, right? This, and do we have any timing?
No, unfortunately, no. And at the moment, I don't know how it is in Australia, but I know there is a lot of complaints and discussion that actually the French legal system has a lot to do and not so much money to do it. So we never know the length of how much this can take. And also, I guess it depends on the investigation also, because there are 12 allegations, if I'm not mistaken. So there is still a lot to investigate. But I think Telegram released a statement saying that they're fully cooperative and that they're not too worried on the next steps as well.
Yeah, so the Telegram statement was they are fully cooperative and there is nothing that you have to hide, and usual things, I would say, right? Okay, yes. So what are the allegations? How would you structure them, or what would you want to say about them?
The one that struck me the most are the ones for complicity, because what it means is that actually the CEO of a social media or an online platform, potentially, because once again, there is a lot we don't know on what is going on and on the criminal aspect of it. However, I find it very interesting that it would be for complicity and the precedents it can take, because depending on what we learn afterwards, would that mean that, for instance, Mark Zuckerberg could be also placed into custody if they found also illegal activities going on Instagram or Facebook or any of the Meta platform they have? Same for Snapchat and or Signal, for instance. So this is what struck me the most, is that complicity is a very serious allegations, and I'm really wondering what would materialize and characterize this allegation specifically.
Yeah, I had a very similar impression when I read this first, because it very much reminded me of some of the very, very early cases of internet governance somewhere from the 90s. I remember several cases in Germany and also in Austria where platform providers suddenly were facing criminal allegations for the sharing of child pornography, for example, or for other illegal content. And that was before the e-commerce directive was negotiated and put into force. And it's really striking that this is coming back now 25 years later by a statement saying that Durov was, or Telegram or Durov, whoever, was webmastering an online platform in order to enable an illegal transaction in organized group. I mean, he would certainly not agree to this. And if you read his own statement on Telegram about this, he's also clearly stating that he is not to be held personally responsible for what's going on the platform. So how do you take this allegation that there is some complicity in the game? Is this, I mean, where does it come from? Do you have any explanation why they start this now?
No, I don't. And actually, what was interesting is that most of the reactions I saw, whether it was in the newspaper and globally, like this is not only on French coverage of what was happening, I feel like there was a mix of a lot of things like free speech and complicity and illegal activities, the lack of moderation of the platform, of Telegram. What is Telegram? Actually, is it a social media? Is it a messaging service? I don't know. I felt like it was going a bit everywhere. And also what I found even more interesting is that a lot of people brought up more a political aspect into it, of asking how the French government could actually allow something like this, that the precedents would be serious. I have seen that the European Commission was actually taking a step back on saying it, regarding EU legislation, we have nothing to do with it because we don't have any criminal aspects put into the Digital Services Act, for instance. And I've seen also that actually, like also all of the ties Durov actually could helped intelligence services in fighting crime or finding or helping fight against illegal activities that were happening on Telegram. However, one thing that needs to be noted is that this is not from the French government. This is not from the intelligence services. This is purely judicial. So this is purely the attorney general and an investigation judge, so independent and impartial, that are leading this investigation, which makes it all the more interesting and a bit weird, because nobody actually knows what are the facts. We just know what are the allegations, but this is really pretty much it. So it's really hard to have an opinion and even trying to guess what the following procedure would be.
And do you know whether there was somebody accusing them or him that led to this investigation, or is it only driven by an initiative of the prosecutor and the judge?
From what I read, it's only coming from the prosecution. It's not based on any complaint. I'm actually really wondering, yes, like the material facts, is it also because police services in charge of investigating, crimes of child pornography or terrorism also, I don't know, maybe asked I don't know if asked is the right word here, but maybe the lack of cooperation at some point may have led to prosecution actually saying this cannot continue, or are there other things that we are not aware of at the moment?
But the timing is a little bit strange, right? So that out of the sudden you are arresting the CEO of a company having, I don't know, 900 million or something like this customers from a plane somewhere for 96 hours in a case that looks very much like a 1995 case. So, there were plenty of rumors on the internet, I'm sure that you heard about them or that you read about them, that there might be political reasons behind this, that there might be intelligence-related reasons behind this. Quite some people in Russia were rather concerned, on both sides were rather concerned about what's going on here.
I find it interesting, though, like the Russian being also worried about this, because he kind of left Russia for the same reason. He's actually being investigated about today. So yes, I read about this. The only thing is for me that if it was political and intelligence services, then it would put into question the separation of powers and the independence of justice, because from what I read and understood from law professionals that also express themselves on the topic, is that it's very much from the judicial institution and kind of acting alone.
Yeah.
But maybe later on we will learn that that maybe there was something underneath that.
One of the things that he's stating in his statement is that he even explicitly reminds people of Russia, and he also says that when Russia demanded to hand over encryption keys, the encryption part is something we will need to talk about in quite some more detail. They left the country and they got banned in Russia, and the same happened to Iran. So would you read this as a potential threat that they simply leave France and or the European Union? And is this perceived as a threat somewhere in the public political debate in France?
No, actually not so much. And listening also to two law professionals. One is an academic professor in a university in France, and the other is a jurist in the NGO La Quadrature du Net, which is pretty famous also as a privacy watchdog. They were saying that there is an option for France to block Telegram, to actually block it in the country, so much as other countries have done and blocked social media or even internet, and they chose not to. So seeing Telegram leaving France as a threat, I'm not so sure. I think it will raise a lot of questions, and especially in regards to encryption. But to leave France and the European Union, I'm not so sure. Honestly, I'm not so sure, because Telegram strikes me as one of those social media and social platform where freedoms are taken a bit to an extreme, if I may say so, even though once it becomes illegal, it's not freedom of speech anymore. But I don't see them actually leaving. Yes, I think they would actually maybe like push to stay in that regard, also because there is no encryption on Telegram, if I'm not mistaken. Like the message, it's only possible to do manually and only when only two people are communicating, but the rest is not encrypted, which is also interesting.
Yeah, which is one of the reasons why Russia is quite concerned, right? So, but one of the people who were concerned was the French president, Macron. And I found that also very interesting, because you were stating before that this was some kind of independent action taken by the judiciary. And it's not that common then that the president of a state starts commenting on those independent actions. How would you put this into context? Is this normal in France?
Oh, I feel like our government and the executive loves to comment on judicial decisions. So I'm not so surprised. Is it potentially a problem? I would say so. And also, I feel that Macron is under the light, because since the judiciary acted alone, everybody's a bit taken aback and a bit wondering what is going on. Also because Macron was is also welcoming a lot those CEOs, like he welcomed Elon Musk with open arms and Pavel Durov as well, and he pushed for him to have French nationality. So I find it even more interesting that he's also concerned on this and maybe afraid that it would shed a bad light on him, perhaps to some level as well. But maybe he's as clueless. I don't think so, but would appear as clueless as the rest of us, and also maybe worried that it would take a dangerous precedent in France, but also in Europe, and giving ideas.
Did the case have any impact on any of the other social networks in France? So did any of the others react? No, nothing. No.
Not that I'm aware of. I know Elon Musk provided his support to Durov, which is absolutely not surprising. But so far as I know, not so much. They were not too concerned, maybe because they are more cooperative, also because their platform works differently. It doesn't mean that they don't hold any illegal activities, but let's say that they are putting more effort into moderation and cooperativeness, especially on serious topics. And I'm thinking mainly about child pornography and terrorism.
So for me, I mean, as there is plenty of terrorism and child pornography on all of the platforms, for me, this looks a little bit like, some kind of hitting someone on the head because they were not cooperating or at least people thought that they were not cooperating without any too much of a difference between them and the problem on other platforms. Because as I said, I mean, there's plenty of illegal content on all of them. Would you agree, or does the public agree with such an interpretation?
I completely agree. That's also the impression it gives, that because they were less cooperative, and also maybe because of Telegram's reputation, these are two factors that, yes, as you said, hitting someone on the head on this, but it doesn't. And actually, this is one of the main concerns I feel, is that would this apply to any social platform having illegal activities going on? Because I mean, for Facebook, this is really well known, that they also have this issue. And also it's to know that in French law, in terms of moderation and where to the responsibility goes for the platforms, it's an obligation of means and not of results. And I think it also brings another question of what kind of power we want to give to private companies actually on moderating illegal activities, because this is kind of delegating also state powers to some extent.
Yeah. You were stating before, I mean, this is a question, by the way, which is very intensely debated when it comes to the DSA in particular, and before that to the e-commerce directive. And you said before that the Europeans in the game are not too active so far at the moment in commenting on the case. But does it have an impact on the internal French debate on how to interpret the DSA?
Not that I'm aware of. I feel that it's so weird for everyone that I think it really poses a question of, yes, what type of power we give to those platforms. The question of encryption as well is something that is recurring as well. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit perhaps about the encryption part, because this is also, in my view, very strange in some way, right? We had these allegations about complicity, strange per se, as I said, and then we have something complete. We have some kind of laundering. That's also another problem. But then we have a third area which is completely different from the others, which is about providing cryptology services aiming to ensure confidentiality without certified declaration, providing a cryptology tool not solely ensuring authentication or integrity monitoring without prior declaration, and importing a cryptology tool ensuring authentication or integrity monitoring without prior declaration. And this reminded me very, very much again of debates that we had in the 90s when we were talking about the electronic signature regime then. And already then France had a very specific point of view on this, arguing very much that the state should always be in the position to decipher, if necessary, encrypted communication whenever needed. So this whole backdoor Trojan horses debate then, already in 1995 or 1996, was very much dominated by French positions, very much going into the direction that state authorities need to have access to such documents. Is this part to be seen in this context, or is this something completely different?
I think this debate and the French position really has not differed so much. I don't know whether it went quiet for a little bit, but I feel it very much came back on the front stage recently, also because we have a new law that have been enacted to fight illegal content online, whether it's cyber harassment or to counter terrorism, and whether it comes from French deputies and the French National Assembly, or even from European regulation or directives. And there have been some, let's say, statements made by of French officials, such as deputies, on, for instance, there was a suggestion on forbidding VPNs, for instance. There is also very much this question of having a backdoor that is very much pushed towards, like, to have this obligation, and I really don't understand it. But what is interesting, so because I was reading on this, is that this option came out of, we need to have a backdoor, or police teams should be able to have the codes to decipher. And CNIL actually said, no, like, no, in terms of protection of not only private life, but also on protection of personal data. This is, you cannot ask for this. And what I'm also very much puzzled with this insistence of having a backdoor, even if, because they want it, of course, only for government and to have, like, in this really tailored use, which honestly, we can't know it's going to remain tailored, first of all. And second, if there is a backdoor, even though it's tailor-made for a specific entity, whether it's a government, how no one else will find access to this backdoor, and especially in terms of hackers, I don't know, and with a context of cyber crimes and cyber issues being raised, and even on a political and diplomatic level, I don't understand that this may even be considered. And I'm very much worried on the road this is taking, and having everything kind of justified by, we need to fight crimes online, but you understand it's about protecting this type or this type of person, as if there were no other means available to do this than having a backdoor or being able to decipher private conversations.
Yeah. This debate, as you certainly know, is very, very heavily discussed at the moment in Austria as well. So there is quite some similarity here. Let me ask, is there any pushback on this now coming from CNIL, so from the French Data Protection Authority, or from or NGOs or academics or whatever, about this part of the allegations? Or is there a legal/political debate on this, or not yet?
Surprisingly enough, not so much. And one of my clue on the topic would be that because he got arrested at the very end of August, nobody was back from vacation, or maybe, it was still like going back to work and saying this and having all the topics. And because I was looking at, for instance, like Quadrature du Net, and well, I looked maybe like a few days ago, and they hadn't released anything. I know one of the journalists was actually on the radio on a dedicated discussion on this. But there is encryption I feel, is also very niche in a way, because there is, I feel, is also very niche in a way, because following the arrest of Pavel Durov, it was mainly about free speech and illegal activities going on the platform, and less about encryption and also this ongoing debate. I feel this is something that is known, but without being utterly talked about, despite some really concerning issues happening. And I actually learned that there is a decision from a first instance tribunal in France in a case that is known as the 8th of December case, where a court said that actually the fact that talking on an online platform that is encrypted and knowing that it is encrypted is pushing towards wanted to be secret, and therefore there would be something of a criminal nature just to want some privacy of communication. It's only on a first instance. I haven't seen anything released by the Cour de Cassation, which is the highest.
Let me just repeat, Clara, do I get you correctly that the argument is that if somebody uses encryption, this is per se already an indicator that something illegal is going on? This is
yes, yeah, which is very much concerning.
Indeed. And is this contested by, for example, CNIL or anybody else?
Actually, this decision hasn't really been talked about. I learned of it doing some research for discussion today. So I could not see the exact phrasing, but this what transpired from this particular decision. I know that CNIL also released statements on their point of view on encryption and why this is a very good tool to enhance data protection and, in a larger acception, also privacy. Also because I feel a lot of weight is put on wanting to avoid encryption or being able to decipher. However, this encryption does not prohibit or make people not being surveilled. Like, there are other means to do this without having to decipher. So this is very much something I'm really puzzled about. And CNIL is very not strict, I'm not going to say strict, but very straightforward on the topic, saying that for them encryption should be end-to-end without any backdoors. And this is both security and privacy tool that is extremely, extremely useful. And even, in our profession, the usually daily recommendations, and especially when dealing with advice on sensitive data, is you need to encrypt the data. So knowing that potentially it would become a rule with an exception, I feel the exception could very much be extremely fragile and could potentially deprive encryption from its purpose, its initial purpose and use.
Yeah. So, Clara, I have two more questions on this. The first one is, what we are talking about is clearly also political, right? So there are plenty of stakeholders in this game who do have an interest in this. Is it known to the public who speaks for the judiciary here? So do we know who the public prosecutor is or who the judge is and so on? And do they participate in this debate? Or is there at least a spokesperson of the judiciary who participates in the debate? Or are we just, all of us sitting in the dark speculating about what's going on? That would be my first question. And the second question is, when you read the press release, one of the things that I find personally extremely interesting, let's put it like this, is the very last sentence, which says that the detention period is 96 hours, given the applicable procedure for organized crime offenses. At least to an Austrian/German speaker, something like organized crime raises some more red flags, right? Because this sounds like mafia or similar. So is this the way we are going here?
So for the first question, I would say it's the latter option. We're very much sitting in the dark because there is an investigation going on that is under judicial control, that is led by a judge. So there is the secret of investigation, and actually the judiciary is entitled to give us whatever they want. Hence, we have allegations, and nothing else.
Mhm.
And regarding the second question, because there is complicity in considering the offenses, it's very much, I'm not surprised that they would refer to organized crime. And I know there are two instances that are part of the investigation, including one entity that is,
Yes, yeah.
yes, yeah, it's like special units also
The
participating.
Center for the Fight Against Cybercrime and the Anti-Fraud National Office
Yes,
that
exactly.
pursue the investigations.
Yeah, absolutely. And also because, I mean, the allegations are talking about complicity, but the thing is, on Telegram, you have either end-to-end encryption that are activated manually between two individuals, but the rest are public channels, a bit as if, like on your Slack or Teams, everybody could see what was happening. And therefore, that would mean that there is organization on organizing crimes, and it doesn't mean that he is actively participating in these activities. However, if the organized crime is constituted and then he is accused of complicity, then it gives them also, of course, procedural power to have that length of custody, plus having the judicial control that is attached to it. And if the judge is worried on the possibility of escape and so on, then I guess it could lead to temporary detention while awaiting trial. I don't think it would come to this, actually, because he seems to be very calm and cooperative, at least in the statements that are released to the public through different channels.
And what is at risk for him, Clara, for Durov here in this case now? So what is the maximum penalty that realistically can come out of this?
I'm not sure, again, because we don't know the facts.
Until, okay.
So and we don't even know which felony or even crime or have been characterized. Or so I read somewhere 15 years or something like this, but I don't even know what would be the base for this hypothesis. I don't know. So we're really much in the dark. We just know he's accused of something is going on, and we'll see, because maybe they're going to follow the investigation. It will end up in them saying, okay, we have everything we need and we're not going to press any more charges, and he's free to go and no need to have a trial. So,
but again, I mean, is this sorry to ask so stupidly, but I think in my legal culture, if something like this happens, one of the minimum things that you normally are interested in are the offenses somebody is accused of. And then, of course, you also learn about what the risk of this is, how many years are the outcome of this, the maximum outcome of this. And it seems to me that in the French public debate, there is very little such information available at the moment, despite of the fact that it's a very, very political case. Is there any reaction from political parties on this then?
that I wouldn't. I'm not sure. I don't know. I haven't seen anything. Maybe apart from at least the president that who reacted. I don't know. Also because. Or if there was, it was very much kind of under the rug, because also of
August is the ideal day to do something.
Yeah, the political situation being also what it is at the moment, and us are still trying to find a prime minister at that time.
So you have larger problems.
Yes, exactly. No, but it's interesting because, as I said previously, usually it's true that usually you would have several lawyers or legal professionals arriving on the news and explaining everything on like the charges, the complaints, and like the how long he would spend in prison and everything. However, everybody is extremely cautious in this case because of the little information we know, and I think that's why also nobody tried to put a number or trying to find actually what would be the different penalties, considering all of the allegations that have been released, because of so little information, and they would need, we don't know anything. Also because yes, we don't have enough information, and I think if lawyers and legal professionals also cautious, that also is very telling. And I feel everybody's is also waiting to see what happens next, and what type of, and I think also maybe a bit of worry on what type of precedence this could give. So yes.
Yeah, I mean, one of the implications of this is if you are running a company with 900 million customers and you are not allowed to leave a country, that sooner or later that will have a significant negative impact on your company, right? So there is some damage coming out of the very fact that this is happening, and I would be, if I were on both sides, I would be quite concerned about the financial risks coming with this. But again, no debate on this yet, right? Correct?
Not that we know of, and I feel for Telegram, I don't know whether they would suffer that much in terms of use. I think it will very much depend on the outcome.
As far as I know, Clara, there are 50 people working for Telegram, and all of them report directly to Durov. So if he's not fully able to work, which implies that you can travel, I think this will have an impact on the company, I would assume.
Yes, I was more thinking of users actually going to Telegram to have to find information on channels or offer chatting. But that's also very interesting in terms of the moderation aspect, that only 50 people, considering the amount and the well-known activities that are going on there. Because let's be honest, Telegram has this reputation and even stereotype now that if you're going on Telegram, what are you doing there a bit? That's also what transpired a lot from everything I could read on the matter.
Clara, many questions. I think not so many answers yet, but I do hope that we will get answers in due course, and I hope that you will be willing to come back then whenever there are any news.
With pleasure.
For today, thank you very much for your time and for all the effort you invested into this. And for those of you who participated, thank you very much for joining us. I do hope that we stay in touch, that you stay interested and connected. Somebody even put now a comment here, which is nice. A bit of a worry, Mary. Yeah, a bit of a worry indeed. So thank you very much for being with us. Despite of the fact that there's quite some bit of a worry in the game, we will continue with assessing the situation. Have a good day and stay healthy, as healthy as you can. All the best. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.